Okay, welcome everyone. It is so great to see some of these faces that were on previous presentations. Thank you for joining us again, and all the newbies here, thank you for joining us. Let's see. All right, so today we have Greg Jones. He is the manager of information security here at Mary Washington Healthcare, and we are so thankful that he is with us. So before Greg gets started, make sure you put your camera on. Let's see who you are today. And then also be sure to have your full name listed as it was on your registration. We want to make sure you are eligible to win those gift cards. And of course, pay attention to the end of the presentation. We will put the link in to evaluate the symposium. And you can just do that once at the end of the day, take some time to do that. So Greg, thank you so much for joining us, and we are looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Greg Jones. Like Dale said, I am the manager of information security here at Mary Washington Healthcare. Very excited to be with you all here today. This is my first time doing a presentation at a conference or symposium, and we're gonna make it through. So this session, we're gonna talk a little bit about information security, get into some of the fundamentals of information security, and talk a little bit of how information security intersects with healthcare. So at the end, we should have plenty of time for questions. I know if I was on y'all's side, maybe you're a little shy about asking questions. So I've prepared some extra ones just in case. And then, so let's get right on to it. So a little bit about me before we get into the full presentation. Graduated Christopher Newport 2010 with a major in information systems and a minor in computer science. Like most freshmen coming into college, I wasn't too sure exactly what I wanted to major in. One time I wanted to be a doctor. Then the other time I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll get into finance and start taking some accounting classes. So I think just keep that bookmark because I think later in the presentation you can see how some of those decisions as you make early in your life, they're gonna come back around, and they're gonna affect some of the decisions you make later. So we'll kind of come back to that one. So after I graduated Christian Newport, came back home to Richmond, started working for a small healthcare organization. Started as an intern there under the director of information security and networking infrastructure. That gave me an opportunity to then get a full-time position there, still not yet in information security. Actually started off as a system administrator and a SharePoint administrator. But it did give me an opportunity for them to send me over to Virginia Commonwealth University, where I got my master's in IT management. So the first tidbit of advice I would give out, when you're coming out of high school, you might think, oh, well, out of college or you get your first job, you have this idea, oh, I'm going to go work for like Facebook or in Richmond, it's Capital One and all the big time companies. Sometimes it's the smaller companies and that they will invest in you. And if they are willing to pay for that graduate degree or help you there, take full advantage of it. So that'll be the first thing I did. So I really appreciate that opportunity of working there. From there, I still wasn't in information security just yet. I switched over into the financial sector, did some more analyst work. It helped pay the bills, but that job gave me the opportunity to start working closer with their information security team. And I got to work on some of the projects in those areas. And also around that time, information security started becoming a big deal. It's like 2014, it started becoming big deal in the media with just not only politics, but some of the large retail companies were getting, hacked, or they had some incidents. The one that comes to mind is the Target, when they got some malware and, they had ransomware in their environment. And so I knew at that point, well, information security, I could see some opportunities there and some good job security long-term. So that really started piquing my interest, and that's when I started focusing on InfoSec. My favorite part of the job, I would say, is it's the never-ending game of kind of like whack-a-mole. Information security and just IT in general, it's a constantly changing environment. We were just talking earlier, just 5 years ago, what we were doing 5 years ago is not what we're doing, now. So it's always, the job never gets stale. It's always something new, and not only trying to fix those new issues that are coming up, but you're also constantly learning on the job. So it doesn't get boring. So it's my favorite part of the job. So what exactly is information security? So the first thing that comes to mind when somebody asks what's information security, it goes to those memes of, what my parents think I do, what my friends think I do, what I actually do. So if you watch enough TV, you will think information security is the green screen with all those incoherent characters just going around the screen and somebody hacking a system or taking down a system. Well, I mean, kind of a shocker, but that's really not the full job of information security. Could be a little bit of it, but not really. So then your friends and your parents start thinking, well, oh, you work in IT, so you can fix my phone or my computer or my printer, and why you got to know a little bit of hardware? That's still not exactly what information security comes in. So I think you can see on the screen here we got some of the catchphrases, and I think this is a good starting point. We have up here like incident, security, cyber attacks, malware. Some of the key phrases that come out, and just starting to get an understanding of those. Well, what it really comes down to, what information security is, it's that day-to-day grind of protecting the most valuable asset of an organization outside of the people. Obviously, the people are the most important, but the data of an organization is the most valuable piece that for every organization across all industries. Um, so, as an information security analyst, you're looking to keep outsiders or the unauthorized users from as far away as possible from your company's data. And if we can do this like visually, just kind of picture it as a shell with multiple layers. So you're starting from the outside layer. You're protecting your company's website. Sometimes it could just be, somebody juvenile that just wants to change a couple of characters on there just to be funny or add some pictures to a website. You're protecting against that. Or if it's a website where people can enter information, you want to make sure the information they're entering and it gets to a database, that it's not going to affect that database in any way. Or even just think about emails. As an information security analyst, it doesn't matter how much top of the line products that you have, if you're securing all of the machines and you're doing everything possible. It just takes one email to come in and for somebody to click a link, and now everything that you worked on, the malware is now inside your network and it can just spread around. So kind of scary stuff to think about. It can just take one thing to take everything down, but that's what it's like. So then you come into that next layer. The next layer, you start looking at you need to separate your medical areas from your financial areas. You even want to protect and keep, your financial analysts out of the medical areas because they don't necessarily need to know that information. And we'll touch on that a little bit later as well. All the way down to that core of where the data actually lives in your data center, where your servers are, or your network appliance. You need to put badge access on that to keep employees from entering there that maybe don't understand that. What they might think they understand it, but they don't understand it. We take an example. We might have like Dr. Joe. He might have went on YouTube, thought, I learned a little bit about RAM, and we know like that affects the speed of a computer. So Dr. Joe wants to go into the server room, plug in some RAM, and he didn't do it properly. And next thing you know, you have issues everywhere. So, you want to keep even your everyday employees out of the data center. So that gives you kind of an idea of the day-to-day job of what information security is. And it never fails. Some of the things that you hear, that another fun part of the job. If you're meeting with your manager and you're telling them, Dr. Joe's at it again, he did something else and it took down the whole network, or you're always just shaking your head and trying to move on to the next thing. So the Information System Security Certification Consortium, which is a mouthful, it's just ISC squared to break it down. They break down the CISSP certification, which we'll talk about later as well, down to 8 domains. So with that in mind, you get an idea of the different areas you can excel in as a security professional. You might start your career off, a lot of people start off, at a help desk, and they're doing access and identity management. So we'll start with that one. So let's say you're working at the help desk and you're creating user accounts and you're adding them to the right security groups. As you grow into your career, you might move on up to a senior security analyst and you start working on different projects and you're noticing, oh, you're working on an access and identity management system implementation where now you're putting in the tools and the processes for the new entry-level analysts that came in and making sure they're doing the right things that you once were doing. So even though that's where you started, you could find yourself 10 years, 15 years down the line doing something very similar to that role. Or let's just say you start in access control and you start working with other teams and you start volunteering for various projects. Maybe it's with communication and network security or security operations. It kind of goes back to, when I was saying you come in as a freshman, you might not know exactly which career path you want to take in information security. So you start getting on different projects and filling your way out and seeing what you want to do. So, those decisions that you may have had in the past, they really affect and they come back into play. I say all that to say information security is so broad and it's so vast. You can be a jack of all trades in all 8 of these domains, or you can decide that you want to just be an expert in one domain and fully just dive down that path and, really get into learning that. No matter what anyone tells you, I would say, my opinion, there's no wrong answers in whichever decision you make. You control your own destiny. And you decide on how you want to, advance your career path. Just looking at it and just giving some real world and kind of scenarios, we can take a look at for my team, for example. I have 6 analysts on my team. I have one that's very strong in the first domain listed, the security and risk management. She's a wizard when it comes to documentation, has a auditing background, so she knows all the right questions to ask and, make sure all our systems are secure. I have 3 other analysts that they really excel in the security engineering and security operations. And they've been with the organization so long, they have that deep historical knowledge of the organization. And that really comes into play. It gets really underestimated on how important having that historical knowledge of your organization helps you and helps the team. And then I got 3 that does that. I got 1 that does. I have 2 more. They work great in the network and security area, and they work with any networking projects. They work with the networking team to find any vulnerabilities in their systems and help getting those patched up. But notice I didn't say I have, all 6 of them are wizards in every area of this. So with information security and a lot of other departments, we work best as a team when we understand, one person's really good in security and risk management. A couple other people are good in, networking communication. And so when they're working on projects and somebody brings up, oh, well, we're developing a new software and we need to get someone with the expertise of putting security there, they know to reach out to each other and bring them into those conversations. So it would be great if we had, 6 people that were just robots and they knew every single thing about every domain. But, in the real world, it doesn't necessarily work out like that. So we kind of just figure it out as you go along. And so, all right, so let's jump in some of the fundamentals of information security. It all starts, and this goes across every industry in information security, when you're facing the problems of securing an asset, the things you need to always reflect on is the CIA triad. And the CIA triad is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And I've seen it so often on so many interviews, it never fails. The interviewer will ask, when it comes to protecting the data, which of these three are the most important to you? And I'll take a second there so I can give me a sip of water. And for you to think, if you were on an interview question and you were an interview panel and they asked, of these three, which of these is the most important to you, confidentiality, integrity, or availability, how would you answer that question? So what it really comes down to is the interviewer really wants to see how your thinking process. If you're sitting there like, well, I can see how this could be, confidentiality can be important here, but availability, you got to have it here. They just want to see if you think it through. It's actually a trick question because all three of these in a vacuum, they're all equally important and in their own right. So there are some times when, the availability might be more important than confidentiality, but very rare. So all three of these are very important. And in the next few slides, we'll start talking about how they affect healthcare. So confidentiality, it's very closely tied with privacy. It's protecting the data from those unauthorized users that we talked about early, with the layered approach. And when we say unauthorized users, like I said earlier, it's not only just the outsiders to a company, but it could be, the employees themselves. And so we take me for this scenario. As the information security manager, yes, I have access to see everybody's internet traffic, or I can see what they're downloading to their machine. I can even see emails if need be. And that last part is what's very important, if need be, because just because I have that access doesn't mean I necessarily need to just go and look at that information. And that kind of goes to the practice of least privilege and need to know. Just because, we have the patient information out there, and let's just say, oh, I see one of my friends is at the hospital. Let me go into their medical records and see what they did. Not only is that just completely unethical, it's actually illegal. So, you have to protect against those things and keep those in mind as well. Because, their health records and that's confidential information. I don't need to know that information. So that's what we mean about need to know. And also when you're thinking about access for your employees, you want to give them the least amount of access needed to complete their day-to-day job. And that goes to the practice of least privilege. And so some of that information, your name, your address, your date of birth, social security number, all those things, they fall under protected health information. So your job as an information security analyst is to guard that information day and night. It's very valuable financially and not often considered reputationally. So if there's a data breach and it involves social security numbers and that got out into the wild, all the way into the internet, that can cost a company millions of dollars. And then just think about the reputational part. If let's take Target, for instance, while they could recover financially from it, sometimes the getting back that reputation and getting back the customer's trust, it's very hard. Target did a really good job with their marketing and making sure customers felt comfortable, but it was a little shaky for them. We didn't know if Target was going to survive those few months after that breach, but here we are now. Everybody goes to Target. Some people call it Target. You can't go to a Target now and just buy one thing. So them getting back that reputation of really putting their customers first and taking care of that, it was very difficult for them, I'm sure, but they were able to overcome it. So now we get into integrity. All right, so basically what integrity is kind of one of the slightly difficult ones to grasp right off top. But data integrity is saying whatever I put into the system, it's going to be the same if it gets transferred to another system or while it's sitting in the database, unless it's changed by an authorized user. So let's put another scenario in there. Let's say a doctor puts in the system a patient needs 100 milligrams of certain drug. And if there was bad data integrity, let's say that 100 milligrams changed to 800 milligrams. Well, just thinking about that, that could be a life or death situation if a pharmacist is going to fill a prescription and giving somebody 800 milligrams, and the nurse is going to, give that patient that could be a really catastrophic incident. Or let's just say the name of the drug changed, that could be another life or death situation. So data integrity is really important when it comes to, healthcare and protecting that. There could be really bad fallouts from bad data integrity. And then how about availability? So it's just like I said, it's pretty obvious. Your systems need to be available when the business is operating. So not too many hospitals that I know of at 5 o'clock, they turn out the lights, all the nurses say, all right, we're going home, shut off the heart monitoring systems, lock all the doors, we're out of here, we'll be back at 8 o'clock tomorrow. Not very likely for a hospital to operate like that. So you have to have your systems. Most hospitals are 24/7. So you have to support that mission and have your systems up 24/7. But as an information security analyst, you have to understand not all systems are built the same. So if everybody wanted to have their systems up 24/7, that can get very costly. While we need those heart monitoring systems and the electronic health record system up 24/7, we don't necessarily need, like the TV monitors to be up 24/7 and support that. So you have to put that in consideration, because now, and this really starts going down a rabbit hole. You start looking at redundant systems, and you have to have 2 instances of a system up and running. So if system A goes down, if system A has 2 instances running and this one has to go down, where you can just fail over and have it still running, and to the end users, they don't really care as long as the system is up and running. So won't really go down too much down that rabbit hole, but that's something to consider. And then, since we're talking security, about another scenario, you have Microsoft servers, and with Microsoft, there's a vulnerability. You have to apply patches, and with all Microsoft things, if you apply a patch, it's going to require you to reboot that system. And during that reboot, you have some downtime there. So you have to put that in consideration. How do we apply these patches and reboot the system while still having it available 24/7? So this is all the scenarios you'll run into once you start your career down the information security and just working in IT in general. And then I put up here the last part, that is the thankless part of the job. So you'll never just walk around the hospital or walk around an area and see someone and say, oh, hey, Greg, thanks for having the network up and running for us today. It's just not going to happen. So, there's a saying that's no news is good news. Well, that really applies to IT and information security. If I'm not hearing from end users, then I know the day has been going great. I don't have anything to worry about. But let that system go down just for a couple seconds, couple minutes. Everybody in the healthcare organization will be having my phone ringing, saying, what's going on? What are we doing? Are we under attack? They'll have something they'll hear in the news. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're under attack. Everybody just relax, just have a little hiccup. We'll get it back online for you. So thankless part of the job, just kind of go and do your thing. So start kind of wrapping it up. So how do you get started in information security? I would say the first thing, and just thinking about when I was in high school or even in college, I wasn't participating in things like this, symposium to start learning. So I would say doing what you're doing now is a great start. Attending events like this, getting different perspectives from different people is a really good start. And then from there, the educational part. So if you're extending your learning past high school, you're starting to evening up yourselves with other peers, because you got to think everybody all around the country, they might be doing all similar things that you're doing. So you got to find, all right, so now I'm even with my peers. How can I start setting myself apart? And I have on this slide a couple of the entry-level certifications you can start with, like the A+ certification or the Security Plus, Networking Plus. Those certifications don't require years of work experience. What you will find, a lot of things you're learning in school now, you're pretty much, I would say about 60%, 70% there. And you just have to do some, extra studying, some little supplemental studying on the side to really get you to 100% ready for you take an exam. And if you pass, you get certified in, with A+, it's hardware, Security Plus is security, and or networking. So that's a good way to start separating yourself. I would say start doing that, right before you want to start entering the field. If you're in college, about that junior year, you're almost there. If you don't, you might not even realize it, but you're almost there. Then from there, once you start working in the field of interest and you start getting those years of experience, you start getting to some of the more advanced certifications. So we have up here the CCSP. We talked about the CISSP earlier, CCNA. Those are certifications. You not only have to pass an exam, but you have to, on your application process show that you have years of experience working in some of those domains that we listed earlier. So that's another way that really starts separating yourself from the pack. So I really would start, doing what you're doing now, advance your learning, get some certifications, and then you should be set on the right path. And then outside of education, it might sound a little cliche, but it can't be said enough. Seek out a mentor. Seek out a mentor. And mentors, they come from all over the place. I mean, it could be a former teacher, it could be a professor, it could be one of your coaches that you had, it could be a family member, it could even be someone that maybe graduated a year or two before you. And they can relate to what you're about to experience. I think a lot of people, when they think of a mentor, they want to say, oh, well, I'm going to seek out somebody that's 50 years into the career. But you start thinking about it, while they'll have plenty of knowledge on what you need to do, they might not relate to how you are about to go on your path. So I would say find somebody that's very relatable, who's in a area that you want to, that you aspire to be in, and talk to them. And those conversations are invaluable. You're just bouncing off ideas off each other, and you're learning from each other. Even your mentor will probably learn something from you that they didn't even consider. And I've been doing this for 10 years, and I have multiple mentors that I talk to weekly. Sometimes I'll talk to some of them monthly, depends on what our schedules are like. But those conversations we get a lot out of, and they're enjoyable. So I would say always seek out a mentor to get you going. And so with that, I don't have really much else. I included my contact information up here. I have my LinkedIn. You can reach out to me there. If you're a little shy from asking questions here, I'm always welcoming questions. And it's another part of the job that I really like, is really helping, others that are getting started off, advancing to learning what they want to do and helping them advance their career. And my email's here. You can reach out to me there. And thank you. I'll open it up for questions.
Greg, thank you so much for that presentation. I have a question myself for you. With your certifications, is that something that you have to constantly have continuing education on or recertify?
Yep. So depending on the certification, you do have to do what they call continual educational courses. If you go to a conference like this, I'll get an hour of time towards my recertification. And depending on which one it is, I would say like the CISSP, that one is every 3 years I have to recertify. And I don't have to retake an exam. If I meet these requirements, I have to do 40 hours of, continual learning every year. I have to do 120 hours in a 3-year cycle. And then if I keep up with that, I don't have to retake an exam. Because trust me, even I don't want to retake those exams. They could be they're difficult exams. They're not easy. That's why it really separates you from the pack, because some people, it just takes them a little time to really get there. So yes, you have to recertify.
Okay. And Greg, you are right about it being thankless. I have taken information security for granted, you know, and so I want to be the first to thank you and your team for doing what you do. I never realized the back end of that. So I don't know about anybody else on this chat here, if you guys have felt the same way. You just don't realize what's on that back end, keeping everything going.
Do we have any students on the call that are interested or pursuing a career in IS? You can raise your hand or unmute. You could also unmute and share something new that you learned today about IS that you maybe didn't know prior to this presentation. Don't be shy.
Stacy, did you know about all those certifications? I just didn't realize there were so many.
I did not know about them all, that's for sure, but I did know that there is a lot of certifications in IS, and I have some friends from college that, you know, didn't need to go off and get a master's or something like that because there's so many certification opportunities that kind of help you grow in your career with IS that doesn't necessarily require a master's or something like that, which is very interesting.
Right.
So I would say that to Stacy's point there, I have a lot of friends that, you know, they decided maybe going that master's route is going to be way too expensive. Certifications are a lot cheaper, and they are doing very well for themselves by, you know, just going the certification route. And they have, like I said, entry level ones, they have advanced ones, even they have the intermediate level ones. So it's a constant learning, constant updating your brain. So there's plenty of opportunities out there in the certification route.
Well, and I think one nice thing too, when you think about IS, it's invaluable. You know, every organization, every department needs that type of support. So, you know, those jobs are in demand like many other healthcare jobs. So it's always something to consider if you feel like you're stagnant and can't find, you know, a good path. It's definitely one that, you know, you could, you know, find a job, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can't see that the need would ever go away. I would see that it would probably be increasing as much as our technology changes. You know, more positions open for this type of thing.
We have two comments in the chat box from Kayla. She says, this is all new information for me. And she said, I'm glad I'm learning now before I get further into my career path. Great point.
Yes, definitely. Kayla, it was new for me as well. I didn't realize there was so much on this back end of it.
Yeah, technology is something for us all to be aware of. I mean, we're all going to be dealing with it. I know there's so many, you know, individuals in healthcare now that used to do paper charting and paper records, and that's pretty much a thing of the past for everyone now, which is, you know, an adjustment when you're used to that. And, you know, any of you that are going to go into, you know, a clinical pathway, you may go from one job to another and it'd be a completely different electronic health record. So it's just lots of, you know, you have to be adaptable and open to change and improvements and things like that, because it'll just be constantly evolving.
Right.
And not only just that, you're working with just in IT in general, you're working in so many areas. You're working with the clinical side, you're working with the financial teams, they might need different requirements, or, you know, there's so many other things. You're working and touching all the areas, and that makes things fun too.
Wow. Yeah, I never thought of that either. You know, when I just think about the nurses, you think about them taking care of the patient. They just need to access their program, but IT would need to touch everything. They would need to have a little bit of clinical, a little bit of financial, a little bit of HR. Yeah, absolutely. So that is really neat. And I would have never thought about IT being such a big presence in healthcare. So that is nice.
Would anyone else like to speak up and provide comments or any questions for Greg?
Well, I did have one note, and I think I get this question a lot. So I asked some people for a little extra. What do you include on your resume, and how do you get started there? So for that question, I mean, I will always, tailor your resume to what the job description is saying. You're going to create your resume, you're going to put down what you've done in your past, but try to tweak those to meet what the job description is asking for. And if you start finding like you're applying for jobs and they have under the required like 10 things, and you might meet like 8 of them, when you get to that interview, you start speaking to, well, I might not have that right now, but this is what I plan on doing to bridge that gap so I could, qualify for that. So, don't get too intimidated on all those requirements. And it's like, oh, I don't meet this one requirement, I'm not going to apply. Apply anyway, and just see, once you get to the interview, you can talk and explain, what you're doing to meet that requirement eventually.
That's a great point.
Definitely.
Yeah. And well, if we don't I have another one. Someone was asking or saying it's very important. This might be a little more advanced for some, but understanding the organizational structure. And so what we mean by that, you usually have a chief level. So that's like going to be your chief information security and officer. And then under that, you have a director level. And then you have a manager, a senior manager or a manager, and then you have an analyst. So I know for my team, we'll have a entry level analyst job opening up later this year. Hopefully we can get that up as soon as possible because we really need an extra person. So you will understand, like if you come in as an entry level, and if you understand the organizational structure, does it meet your, well, if you're thinking 5 years, 10 years down the line, does it give you room for growth to go up? So understanding the organizational structure early will help you get into that role and understand it, if that really fits what you want to do with your career. So that's all I really have.
Those are great points, and that was, invaluable to add to your presentation, Greg. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
Any other brave ones want to speak up and ask a question that maybe came to your mind?
Hey, Stacy.
Yes, Stacey.
Yeah, I just wanted to check and ask this question, and I've just popped back on. So Greg, the question is for you then, just in case I don't know, you may have already answered that then, but have you already touched on, or maybe I'll say it this way, this is Darlene. I have been super impressed with all of the information systems team. We do interact quite a bit with information systems. I've also been impressed from a different perspective. You all have had a number of interns, paid, unpaid. You've had volunteers in your office. You've had quite a bit of activity in terms of helping both students and people within the community get firsthand experience in IT. You guys have really led the charge with that. My understanding is you all recently had an intern, and I think after a month of that internship, she was offered a full-time job. I've heard that through the grapevine. I will say, hint, it was a Germanna Community College student. So I just wanted to ask you this question. If you haven't addressed it already, then do you also anticipate, for this fall and moving forward, then to have that type of activity again in some of the information systems offices, that experiential learning in different ways that students and even non-students can get opportunities to get some firsthand experience?
Yep, it's a good question. So we did have some interns come through, and I hope we have some more come through in the fall, because we do like to, get you in there early, because some companies will give you in some bad habits, and we have to come in and start breaking those habits. But we hope to have some in the fall. And then what we try to do is not just put you in one area, which I really like about how we do our internships. Not just put you in one area, but if you might start a couple of days or a week on my team, And then you'll be like, okay, you're gonna go work with Ben, our networking manager, and get a feel for how that goes. Or you're gonna go and work with Nate Heald, our distributed systems and server teams. So you get an understanding of all the areas, and you, again, you control your destiny here. You pick what works best for you. But the goal is to expose you as much as possible. And hopefully we can get some interns in again this fall and bring them through and get them and bring them all the way on up to manager level one day. Yeah.
And Greg, do you do you all ever do any kind of I guess like the nuts and bolts of EHR and, educating, I guess, students, that are about to finish school and come and work for you guys or another health system? A lot of people use Epic now, but I guess just to give them more training and exposure to things like that they would be doing once they're in a profession.
Yep. So what we do is, especially with some of our entry analysts, what we try to do is we have partnerships with all our vendors to send them off. We can even send you off to training. So we're working with Epic, and you might find like your first trip, you're going on out to the great state of Wisconsin to learn about Epic, and you just spend a whole week there, disconnected from your day-to-day work, so you're not, distracted, and you're just going to solely focus on the EHR system like Epic. We try to do that with as many systems as we can, to get you that education that you need, because you really, as managers, we really want to give you all the tools necessarily to do your job successfully and as less stressful as possible. So the more you learn early, the easier it is for you down the line, and it helps us both out.
That's great.
I think for people that want to take even a deeper dive into, information systems, information security, I just want to make sure that everyone on the call realizes that, we will be talking about information systems again on our third day in our corporate panel. So again, Rachel Overby, one of the managers in IT as well, she will be featured as one of our guests for our corporate panel. So participants, you have another opportunity to learn more about this particular career path. It's considered non-clinical, but it seems to touch every piece of healthcare. So I think it's good that, Greg's presentation kind of, really gets you thinking about, what the possibilities are. And then later we'll learn, and we will hear from Rachel, and she will kind of help us to understand. She'll talk a little bit more about her career path, and then she'll help us to understand, again, how to really get your foot in the door with some of those opportunities as well.
And to kind of plug Rachel's presentation, I can say, I didn't really talk about much of my Mary Wash experience, but for me, I started off as an analyst at Mary Wash just 2 years ago. So I've really got to work with Rachel a lot and learn from her a little bit. And now I am a manager of information security, and that's only been official like 2 months ago now. So I can attest to how Mary Wash and working with all the managers, they've helped me grow and get me to the position where I am at now. So yeah, Rachel should have a good presentation, and I think she teaches at Germana as well. So, good opportunity.
Yeah, Greg, did you mention all of those letters behind your name? I just wanted to just kind of throw that out there.
So I kind of just made those up, right? So
well, you have 100,000 initials behind your name in terms of all of your impressive certifications. I just hope that the participants took notice of that. Again, what an incredible career path for you. That's just a lot of letters, Greg. I mean, it took up in our booklet. Just want to mention that.
It's a little obnoxious a little bit, but yeah, so those just kind of came about in long hours of just studying in a library outside of school. Just the first one is the master's, the other one it's in risk information systems control, what is it, certification in information security systems professional, information security manager, cloud security, and project management. I don't know how I remember this.
Yeah, that kind of proves my point. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, I can geek out on this stuff all day if y'all want.
Okay.
All right. Well, any other questions or comments for Greg? All right. Well, we thank you so much for your time, Greg. Thank you for showing us in healthcare how IT matters. I never knew the details for the background. I was one of those people that, oh, I think I know things and can just click here and click there, but there's a lot more to it. So we thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise with us. And for all of the participants, don't forget to look in the chat section. You're going to see the link for the evaluation. Just make sure you're going to see this link multiple times today. Just make sure you click it once and do that at the end of the day. Also, our next presentation is going to be on pharmacy. So we're looking forward to that. I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the chat also. And don't forget, you want to be present for these presentations. You want to be able to win those gift cards. And again, they're going to go over how you can win all of the prizes that we have available today. So, all right. And if there is nothing else, then we are going to see you at 11:15 for our next presentation.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Greg. We appreciate it.
Thank you.